So that for folks who don't know, or if you weren't watching but listening while driving a car or some such, that was the rancher Dave Evans, who's at Point Reyes National Seashore. He's one of the two that's deciding to stay, but he was at a town hall recently that I was actually at live, and he was complaining and complaining and complaining. And we're going to get into all that today on the show. Skylar's done a lot of prep on that. We like to surprise each other, so I didn't know you were going to pull the Eagle song. I don't know how you get the rights to do that, but I'm glad you did. Wonderful.
Oh, I got to cut it out as soon as this is over. I'm editing it out. So if you weren't here watching live, then you're not going to have seen it.
Oh, that's how it works. Okay, cool. So you can broadcast whatever you want live. You just can't stick it on YouTube without getting it yanked.
I don't know, man. YouTube changes the rules on me every day. I'm just trying to keep up. We'll see. See what happens.
So we're going to get into the latest propaganda from the ranching industry. This guy, Dave Evans, wrote a column. I've got it on my screen. We're going to get to that. And really, we go over this stuff again and again, but in my opinion, and Skylar will speak for himself, but it's essential because this is propaganda and it's repeated, and a lie repeated, as we're seeing from the president of the United States these days, becomes perceived as the truth. So we're here to beat back some of these big, critical, planet-destroying lies about how cattle are good for the planet and eat meat and dairy and it's all healthy for you, which that's kind of the popular belief. But we are here constantly to say otherwise and prove it.
Yeah, I feel like the ranchers have been mentored by Trump forever because it's what they do. It's the same tactic that they do: repeat lies until people accept them as truth.
Exactly. And the thing is, we're all raised in that culture of, meat is good, meat is necessary, eat meat and dairy, and it's healthy, and the top of the food pyramid or the foundation of the food pyramid. So we were all raised with that. And we somehow, if you wake up, you step away from all that and realize it was a lie. It was a lie. So we're going to do a couple warm-up items. Then we're going to get into the meat, as we like to say here, of the show.
We can come up with something better than that, though, can't we?
You mean that as a metaphor?
Yeah.
Because it's lazy and obvious?
Good morning, Corinne.
Morning, Corinne. So the other question I have for you is, what are the rules about saying profanity on this show? Do we have any?
No.
Do as we please. It doesn't matter because we're censored on YouTube anyway?
Correct.
Okay, good. So speaking of all the literal bullshit we're going to get into later, I just wanted to start out, we're so dark and dour and downbeat, and these guys are always ranking on everything and the world's terrible. And I don't want to be the grumpy old man. So I want to start on a positive note for just a second. Please bear with me. So, technology and AI and nuclear war and propaganda, but that thing you're showing there, would you show that on the screen? This is good news. I saw a commercial for this the other night, and I was just so pleased when you're sitting on the toilet taking a crap. And that thing that's just the most frustrating thing in the world for us first worlders, where you tear off toilet paper and it tears, and it kind of tears improperly. So you got a bit of paper hanging down, annoying folks when you're taking a crap. You know what I mean? Well, Charmin, thank God Charmin has corrected that problem finally. You can rest easy. It's got this decal edge cut to it now, a perforation, and it tears, or turds, as I like to say, cleanly when you're taking a crap. No more stray bits of hanging torn toilet paper on your roll. Hey, come on! This is good news, Skylar. What are you reacting for? This is good news. I bring you good news on a Tuesday morning.
The fucking problems with humans have, huh? The superior species. I've told you I want to do a few episodes about poop by itself.
Well, we should.
Commercials that are on TV or the internet about how to help humans take poops, or to deal with your poop, or how to wipe your poop, or deal with your guts. And I'm like, we're the superior species. Like, animals just go take shits, and they do a great job
without clothing in the woods.
You know what it is that pisses me off? It's Charmin. Charmin uses bears in all these, and it's like the bears are always worried about getting the nicest, softest toilet paper. Bears don't need toilet paper. And it's not just, I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, duh, the cartoon doesn't actually mimic life, but it's deeper than that. Like, animals literally squeeze off their poop and continue with the day in a much more civilized manner than us sitting down and reaching back behind.
You see,
We're
folks.
embarrassing.
You see, folks. While you come to this show, you didn't expect this kind of highbrow intellectual discourse, did you? We
Oh
always
God,
deliver.
this is your fault. This is
Yeah.
your fault. I can't
Thank
believe
you.
this is what you chose.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
what's
Okay.
next?
So,
What's
okay.
next? I know you're not
Mo-
done.
Moving on. So I went
Moving
to
on.
a wonderful book reading on Saturday at Book Passage, a wonderful, big, busy, event packed community bookstore in Corte Madera, California, just a few miles south of where I am in San Rafael. This is John Sanbon Matsu. He's come out with a new book called The Omnivore's Deception. There was a pretty good turnout. About 40 people came to hear him talk about his book. I was very impressed. I knew who he was. I have his book. It looks like that, and he looks like that. The Omnivore's Deception, picking on
Yes,
Michael
you've read
Pollan.
from it on the show before.
I want to say it again, and we want to have him on. What we got wrong about meat, animals, and ourselves. Just really highly recommended. I'll be writing about it and blogging about it and stuff. And then just one quote as an example of where he goes with his. I didn't understand that Michael Pollan's book, and he's a smart dude and a Berkeley professor and all that, but I didn't understand how influential his book was, one, and two, how wrong he got one of his main tenets, which is, yeah, you can eat some meat and no big deal. And even he, Michael Pollan, as I learned from John here, the author of Omnivore's Deception, touts it as, getting back to the land by taking the killing into your own hands, and, heartlessly so. Anyway, the quote from the book: "The scientific evidence is clear. We cannot go on extinguishing the lives of billions of our fellow beings," which I add is farmed animals, so-called farmed animals, "billions of our fellow beings for food without tearing apart the very fabric of life itself. Compared to growing crops directly for human consumption, raising animals for food is grossly inefficient and ecologically destructive. Animal-based foods account for 90% of agricultural land in the US and almost 85% of greenhouse gases in agriculture." So it just neatly sums up what you and I talk about many times. And I was in a Facebook discussion for the last 2 days over the weekend where a woman who I know through another life was basically saying plants are the problem. The healthy meat diet will save the planet. I mean, and she says, actually, what we were being told by the vegans, and she claims she used to be vegan, is the opposite of the truth. And it's like, I don't want to use her name, it doesn't matter, but it's the American idiocracy. Believe anything you want. She provides no evidence, no nothing. This book, by the way, I mean, because we're not going into deep evidence, Omnivore's Dilemma is, there's 30 pages of annotations in the back explaining where all the sources are from, of course. And you can check them, of course, not that anybody does anymore, but it just defies common sense. So this book is a wonderful antidote to all that.
Well, it is common sense. You don't have to be vegan. Like,
Go ahead.
okay, so if people know about the energy pyramid. It's kind of like the food chain, except it focuses more on where it begins, and you've got your producers, and producers, of course, have the highest population of living creatures on the planet because they produce for everything else that goes up this pyramid. And the meat eaters are the smallest amount of population because they eat a large quantity but don't get much out of it, because as that energy is moving up, you're getting less of the actual caloric quality because it's getting passed along.
And it originates in what? Light energy
Grass,
from the sun
plants,
converted into plants, into
right,
matter, plant matter.
right.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
for me, even just there was an ad I was going to show maybe another time where it's a feedlot ad, for the cow industry, and it's it explains how it's wonderful that it's such a wonderful system where we get plants into a cow and then we eat the cow, and it all goes back to nature. And well, yeah, that's a natural chain. That's true. That's why it's kind of a brilliant, another misleading ad from the industry. But it doesn't say, well, we don't actually need the cow in that formulation.
if people want to put this to the test at home and you have a yard of any size whatsoever, and you're going to be forced to survive by producing your own food, if you go out and buy a cow and stick it in your yard versus plant crops in your yard, you're fucked.
Meaning you got to wait 2 years for that animal to fatten up before you kill it to
You
eat
don't
it.
have to. You can kill it at the size that it is, and now you're left with nothing. Or you can, let's pretend that you're allowed to buy it feed. You can't feed yourself, but you're allowed to give the cow feed so that it gets bigger.
Yeah.
And eventually you kill it later. Or it's eating your yard, whatever was in your yard, and it will be destroyed within months at maximum by this bovine. You're done. Instead of continuing to eat crops or eat your plants or let your tree or whatever produce for you, you focused on animal agriculture and you're done. It was expensive and you died.
And you have a whatever master's or PhD, scientific professors professing the opposite of what you just said, of course. And I just
Well,
got
where
to
are they getting their money?
Leah's here. Good morning. And I just got to say, this is so hilarious. 3 minutes ago, first she types in as her morning salutation, fuck Michael Pollan. He legitimized the humane scam and greenwashing and spread the word to millions. Followed up by her next comment is, good morning.
I saw that. That's the
It's
way
so
I
perfect.
communicate to him. Like, oh
Leah,
yeah,
Leah, I love you, darling. That's so
I should
perfect.
probably greet people before going into a tirade. Ray Cooper is also listening. Right between the barbecue chicken and the hamburger stands. Yep. The only forms of food out there, right? Corinne
Oh,
says that's
wow.
brilliant, Skylar. No, it's not. It's very, very basic thinking, but thank you.
Ray Cooper of World Peace Chocolate is up in Petaluma right now at a Tuesday morning market, it's kind of more of a wholesale as opposed to a retail market. We wish you luck, sir. Glad you're doing it. Um, yeah, he's been a busy beaver, which is to say, prepping for his excuse me, selling his chocolate to a consumer market on Saturday, and then he's got 2 days to make a whole nother whatever he is 20 pounds of chocolate and brings it to the Tuesday market. So it's a little busier than he wants to be, but it was an opportunity for the holidays he's taking advantage of. Good luck, sir. Okay, so that is live footage from a January meeting at the Dance Palace in Point Reyes Station, a town in West Marin County, right near Point Reyes National Seashore. And that's one of the two ranchers who has decided to stay. That's Congressman Huffman right in the center there in blue. Dennis Rodoni, county supervisor, next to him. I think there was a panel of total of 6 people explaining to the angry, upset rancher community who is collectively playing the abused victim who are being screwed and driven off the land, the
Did you
hardworking.
see how many cameras were? I showed that for a reason. I was like, how many cameras do you need for a bitch session? Boy, the local media couldn't wait to capture every second of complaining.
That place was packed. There was more than 100 people indoors and another 50 or 60, 70 people spilled outdoors, out through French doors. It was a packed event. And the whole thing was like an angry mob. How dare they? And the propaganda was thick. Only Margot, God bless her, don't want to necessarily use her last name without permission, had the courage to stand up to it and speak. And of course, be shouted down by the angry mob of rancher
Wow,
friendly people.
that is brave.
It
Do you know
is.
what did she say?
I don't remember. I remember the emotion of it, which is she started to say something, factual. Because everything in the room was what we're going to get into with articles and the meat of our discussion today, which is the usual rancher propaganda. And she defied some of it, and oh no, they kind of shout her down the way people do if you're at a Trump rally and you say, Trump's he's a liar, he's not a good businessman, which are facts, and they'll just shout you down because you say something emotionally upsetting.
Uh, so I'll read this. If people can't, if it's too small, uh, these are leases in Point Reyes National Seashore. Of course, some of this is changing due to the buyout. And it says Evans, Rosati, H Ranch, Evans, Rosati, the H Ranch Abbots, Evans, Rosati, K Ranch, D Evans, AT&T Ranch, D Evans, D Rogers Ranch. That's 5 ranches that the Evans family is attached to just in the seashore. Boy,
Wow.
he must be having a hard time. Wait until so the one with his name, Let me blow this back up. I was just looking through these. D. Rogers Ranch, ladies and
Yep.
gentlemen, has an annual lease amount of $14,000. The whole thing, the
So
entire range, $14,000.
$14,000 per month.
Yeah. When I call him welfare boy, all of them, I'm not lying. It's
For,
not an exaggeration.
so just to give people an overview here, if they don't know. So these are the list of many of the ranchers that are still in the park. There's only 12 of 14 to be leaving. Dave Evans is one of the ones who's going to be staying. I know with his D. Rogers Ranch and maybe another parcel. I think we were talking about this before the show, but it's 14. I'm sorry, $14,000 that we just said.
For the D. Rogers Ranch.
Do you know how many acres that is? So people
I'm trying
understand.
to see it.
Okay.
They have a drawing, they have an outline, but it doesn't say it. But they mention how many structures are on it, how many barns and living quarters there are for the families and the employees. I mean, the amount of acreage for that to be possible is pretty astounding. And again, $14,000 is maybe 3 months, 4 months of rent for people in a modest apartment.
Right. And again, so I mean, it's safe to say that that's at least 750 acres, maybe considerably more, correct?
Yeah.
So just again, so people get some perspective on that, let's call it 800 acres, and it might be more than that, but conservatively, it's certainly 800 acres of land, prime real estate on coastal California, West Marin County. You're charged $14,000, and you're running a commercial enterprise. I mean, it's just that incredibly low, which is to say under market value lease rate, is provided by the National Park Service that knuckles under the political pressure of cattle ranchers and their whole, industry, which gets public land. This is public land in a national park, not private land, folks. Public land subsidized by you, the taxpayer, and then they constantly complain about how hard they have it and how they're being screwed and how they're such good tenants and good stewards of the land, which is a separate issue about pollution, let alone the incredible violence done to the animals. But that's a third issue. But just the economics of it is it's corporate welfare for multi-million-dollar ranch owners. Wow, there's the actual lease, $14,700. Cool, you dug that up.
And
Signed by
that's one of five that he's getting to operate on. And at least in some capacity, his family is still attached to it. And by the way, I'm going to show you how this family tree out there works in just a second. But Jack, you brought up kind of a important point. People like Evans and Lunny go up there and they talk. If you read the things that they wrote, it gets even more hostile towards the Park Service. The Park Service has done all these terrible things to us. And if you go and you look at the history, the Park Service has just let them do whatever the fuck they want.
yes, free run of the place.
Not only give them leases and keep renewing these temporary leases that are criminally cheap, but don't force them to actually uphold any of the agreements within those leases.
Correct.
They get in trouble for the violations of their leases. The only time anything's pointed out is when a citizen points it out to the Park Service, and now the Park Service has the pressure publicly of continuing to ignore it or at least pretending to acknowledge it. This is what these people are bitching about? I mean, they're so goddamn spoiled, they've lost touch with reality.
Yes. And we're going to have an article which specifically says, I mean, I feel like cutting to it. Actually, without cutting to the article, there is an article we're going to get to at some point, but we're going the whole kind of mosaic of their complaints and how absurd it is in the face of their kid gloves treatments by the Park Service. But Dave Evans writes in a piece we're going to get to, quote, "For decades, the Park Service has proven to be a failed manager of this national seashore. Instead of fully supporting the ranchers, the park strung them along with short-term leases that left most ranchers unable to effectively invest in ranch maintenance and visitor engagement." So to Skylar's point, here's a guy complaining about the terrible mismanagement by the Park Service that is kissing their rancher butts with cheap leases, no enforcement of pollution controls, which is why they pollute the land and the water, It just give them, it's a free ride constantly for decades and decades, and still they complain like, "Hey, you're not giving us more 30-year leases or whatever it is they want."
The inability to, well, that's a lie. It's not an inability, it's a choice.
Yeah.
When they uh, don't improve their property or keep up their properties. But at these lease rates, how can you not afford to? Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
well,
give us this for free. Give us the water for free. Give us the land for free. Let us graze our animals here for next to free. Let us house our employees for free. Taxpayers can pick up some subsidies that are going to be coming from the state, locally, and federally. And we're still going to complain because we're supposed to upkeep the land that we're using for our businesses.
you
How
raise
unreasonable.
yeah. Well, you raise a good point too, which is if they're given all these subsidies, how can they be not making a ton of money? And I would say that
Oh,
the
they are.
industry, well, the industry is also not especially profitable. I mean, so the other issue that goes on here that's sort of woven into the fabric of this mess is they complain it's the environmentalists that are putting it out of business. When what's putting it out of the business is corporations buying up smaller farms. That's happening. That's a market force because it's far more efficient to make money raising beef and dairy on so-called factory farms or bigger feedlots than it is at these relatively smaller. I mean, they only have a few thousand cows. It's hardly small, but smaller. It's inefficient, and that's the trouble with regenerative ranching, which wants to put more cows spread out over, or excuse me, fewer cows spread out over more land, which is even more staggeringly inefficient and destructive of the land. And no,
Yeah.
it doesn't grow grass and sequester carbon. It produces more methane, in fact, and more greenhouse gases overall. But they're complaining about why they're hurting for business, and that's making smaller farms part of larger corporations. Nothing to do with environmentalists saying, hey, you're polluting the land and heating up the atmosphere.
Yeah, I saw as a part of Trump's scramble to reappease his multimillionaire and billionaire ranch friends after he pissed them off with the Argentina importing Argentina beef move.
Yep.
He's now giving them more subsidies and trying to get them more land. People understand that 50% of the United States is currently used primarily for animal agriculture, grazing lands, and or crops to feed them. You need more. 50 fucking percent of the country isn't enough.
Yeah, and that's also public lands, a lot of BLM lands. That's why for me, I'm always saying we focus on Point Reyes because it's a microcosm of the larger problem, which is cattle all over public lands in America, paid for by the public and destroying the planet. I mean, sure, with water pollution, air pollution, and greenhouse gas emissions. So that's interesting to see the lease there. I had never actually seen that. Thank you for digging that up. Okay, well, there's the article. So this is in the Point Reyes Light, November 13th. Today is the 18th, 5 days later. This is a
Wait, Jack, real quick.
sure.
You reminded me that they also own Marin Sun Farms,
Yeah.
which is not the
Dave Evans
seashore.
does.
Right.
Specifically, Dave Evans owns the
Right.
last remaining. It is small. I've seen it from the outside. A relatively small building. The building takes up, I don't know, less than a quarter acre. Um, Slaughterhouse, where people in Sonoma County, it's in Sonoma County in the town of Petaluma, the last Sonoma County operating slaughterhouse. Otherwise, cows to be killed and pigs and goats and sheep have to be trucked elsewhere, which is, I mean, all of it's miserable and all of it's monstrous and all of it's so brutal. If we show you, audience, you will turn away in disgust and then blame us for showing you the truth of where meat comes from and dairy comes from, which is all animals are killed violently when they're children. But Dave Evans, also owns that business. Another another cul-de-sac of discussion if we wanted to. So you're putting up a map here of the so-called. I mean, even God, this map is propaganda. They stuck the word historic in front of all the ranches. That's relatively recent. Historic
And
A ranch, historic B ranch, historic C ranch. You actually, in reading the name of the ranch, you're now saying it's historic, which is to say 150 years of European American history, ignoring 15,000 years of Native American history. Brilliant, nefarious. It just
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the Marin Sun butcher shop in Oakland I can't prove off the top of my head if that's the same people, but they seem to be doing pretty well. They've got businesses outside.
If it's around here, it's likely that it is with the same name.
So let me help people understand real quick before we move on. I'm going to read from this article that one of our investigators on our side put together to help us understand when they say it's dynastic wealth and only a handful of families are actually leasing all of these properties in Point Reyes National Seashore as well as outside of Point Reyes National Seashore. You're like, whoa, what are you talking about? Well, let's focus on Evans. Da, da, da. H Ranch and K Ranch are leased to Alfred Grossi and Dolores Evans. Dolores's father is Alfred Grossi, and then Alfred's father is Domenico Grossi. H Ranch and K Ranch are leased to Julie Evans Rosati. So that's how the Rosati name got into the Evans name. Julie Evans Rosati's mother is Dolores Evans. Dolores's father is Alfred Grossi. Alfred's father is Domenico Grossi. M Ranch is leased to Richard and Jacqueline Grossi. Richard Grossi is the son of Domingo and Edith Grossi. Domingo is the son of Domenico Grossi. D. Rogers Ranch is leased to David Evans. David Evans is the son of Dolores Evans. Wow. Dolores Evans's father is Alfred Grossi. Alfred's father is Domenico Grossi. AT&T Ranch is also leased to David Evans with Dan and Dolores Evans. Again, his mother. Dolores Evans's father is Alfred Grossi.
A dynasty, as you say, or dynastic. I love the word. Yeah, like the English monarchy, and with the similar inbreeding. Wow.
Historically destructive, says NC.
Thank you, NC.
Can you make that bigger? I'm going to remove the map so that you can see the article. That now, Jack, you've got a couple of nice little specific pickings out of this.
Yeah, it's really just a wonderful tapestry. And I do want to say this is all the phrase I want to popularize, so I'm going to say it here now, is the Marin County Milk and Meat Money Mafia. That's who's running the show here.
Mm-hmm.
So let's write the course for our seashore. So just for perspective, folks, this is in a local pro-cattle industry paper, Point Reyes Light, which of course takes cattle industry money, which is why they're just constantly putting articles like this or allowing Dave Evans to speak here without commentary. And if we try to,
they are the Fox News of Marin County ranching situations,
but more literate, better written, you know, but the same bias. Yes.
Well done, journalist. For you. You're inaccurate, but you're spelling correctly, which is a step up in America.
Well, they got a Pulitzer Prize 15 years ago or 20 years ago before they sold out to the cattle industry as much. Anyway, so as this isn't that long, but it's so wonderfully chock full of BS. As the anniversary of the release of the 2025 Record of Decision for the Point Reyes Seashore approaches, we're reflecting on how we got here and envisioning a better future. And I will say, snidely, because I'm not going to let any of these lies go unanswered, nor will Skylar. Basically, we got screwed because we finally got what we deserved. And hey, it's not too late to undo the whole deal. And let's go back to where we were and give us even more. They're just still banging away at it. Next paragraph.
Wait, can I stop you?
Please. I wish you would. Somebody.
Oh. Okay, because he's not even leaving.
Correct. He doesn't want to be alone, though. He doesn't want to be alone.
I guess. Yeah, I guess. I don't know what to make of how much he's bitching when he's not being forced to leave, but it gets more complicated than that because that little town hall crybaby bit that he was doing, he is whining. Nobody offered me a buyout. I'm like, wait a minute. I thought the whole point was not to leave. You're actually just pissed off that you didn't get offered money, which, by the way, I have a hard time believing is true, because why wouldn't the TNC try to get rid of all of them?
To
Now,
the
I don't know this because I wasn't behind the closed doors with the secret evil Biden era deal like you ranchers were. And I still can't get the answers. Western watersheds can't give the answers because these are the special little details from the millionaires handing more millionaires to the ranchers who are still complaining about the millions of dollars.
because I'm a perceptive guy, I'm thinking you're being sarcastic, right?
Oh, maybe,
So
maybe a little bit.
I was there in person, and I got to see him literally shed real tears, not crocodile tears. He was crying and upset that he has to leave and take his father out of there. And Kevin Lunny did a similar performance, which I didn't film. But Kevin Lunny was even took the cake. Dave Evans was, in my humble opinion, I cannot offer proof of this, but it makes literally no sense that the TNC, who was going around talking to every rancher, it was the talk of the town. We're going to buy you guys out, give you millions of dollars to leave. Dave Evans claimed in that speech on camera he was not offered a deal.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any
And he
sense.
sounds upset about it.
And like he didn't know what was going on, that all his rancher neighbors were being offered millions of dollars. His rancher neighbors, these buddies, who are circling the chuck wagons to protect their businesses and keep their cheap lease deal giveaways, he didn't know about it. Just, it makes zero sense. Do I have proof of that? No. But he doesn't offer. Anyway, Kevin Lunny.
I don't know what the new.
Kevin Lunny was there complaining, and he took the deal.
Yeah.
And was complaining.
Yeah, so either way, they're going to complain. This is the recurring theme of the ranchers. Hey, I took the deal and I'm complaining about leaving. Hey, I didn't take the deal and I'm complaining about not leaving, or I'm complaining about staying. I don't understand. Evan's got 20-year leases, which is just a nightmare. That's terrible, terrible news.
And without environmental oversight.
And I haven't seen the new leases. They may not change because they haven't changed in like 20 years. They just keep re-signing the same lease with the same price. More than 20 years ago.
In the rumor mill I've heard so far is no, they're still, I think, anyway, I don't want to give names, but my understanding is they're still going to get, it won't be as cheap, but it will still be way under market value. I have it on good
Is
advice.
This why he's complaining?
That it went up 2%. Right now he's got to pay, only a third of market rate rather than 100%.
Does he get to do what the Ranching Association demand letter to the Park Service was asking for? Is he going to bring in more animals and run an Airbnb, which I'm sure they already are illegally, and no one's talking about? And is he going to have a slaughterhouse out there now too?
So I'm going to go there, asking whether he will keep complaining no matter what he gets as he stays there is like asking whether Trump will keep saying he won every election and was screwed on the many that he did not.
And calling any information that he doesn't like fake.
Exactly, fake news, as now his minions know to do. So, next paragraph. Before West Marin became a weekender's destination hotspot, it was a quiet community of ranching families dotted with working people, teachers, artists, writers, and hippies. Well, that's mostly true. For over 150 years, that's true, the ranching community maintained West Marin's iconic rolling pastures, that seemingly endless sea of green and gold that evokes something like relief inside of everyone who comes here. Of course. Go get it. I'll read, you go for it.
The rolling green is a brief period of the year. And let's be clear, they're bragging about a particular type of green, which is basically an artificial green, a green that isn't supposed to be there, while rejecting the green that was there before they got there because it doesn't meet their purposes. Ranchers aren't responsible for green rolling hills, ladies and gentlemen. They are responsible for it being a habitat-stricken, a dead zone, a golf course when it is green at best, the equivalent of the habitat that a golf course provides when it is green. And then that green turns into fire fuel, weeds. Some, as Laura pointed out last week, some of them are worse than weeds. Some of them are noxious weeds and thistles, and it goes hand in hand with animal agriculture. This is what they've done.
European annual grasses that dry out every year and become, dried husks that become a fire danger, which is the reason currently that Nature Conservancy wants to bring cows back into the park, recently cleared of cows, in order to eat those grasses to reduce the fire danger. So
John, did I say?
go ahead. Go
John's
ahead.
got a quote up here. John, did I say monthly? I probably did, just
Yeah,
because
we
of.
were saying monthly. John, thank you so much. Oh my God, John, what would we do without you? To clarify, John's
Oh,
saying, and I trust John, he's a good researcher on this stuff. $14,700 lease rate you quoted is annual, not monthly. So it's
well, I
only
can't
about
believe I said
1,200 a month.
monthly.
And
We always talk about annual on here. I forgive me, everyone. I'm doing this more and more lately. Maybe
well,
it's too
I
hard
didn't
for
know.
my brain to comprehend that that is annual, and I said monthly anyway. But yes, just like McClure's was 35,000 or for annually, this one is 14,000 annually,
Thank you, John.
and that's one of the five that his family is leasing in some way, shape, or form. Just one.
In my defense, or in our defense, it's not possible that the Park Service would give someone 480 acres here. I was guessing it was 700. So it's only 480 acres. It's not possible that they would give that to them for $1,200 a month with the buildings. I mean, you might as well literally just give it to them, 1,200 a month. That's you cannot get any apartment in San Francisco for 1,200 a month, let alone 2,400 a month. You get a piece of an apartment for that.
Corinne understood that it was annual for anyone.
I We should check, Corinne, but I actually John is really good in this stuff. He's a researcher on these things, so he might
Where
add
did you get the
more.
480 acres? I guess he read it better than I did. I was scanning over it because there's five of them to read, and it was very easy to find the acreage for on the McClure lease. I couldn't see it as easily on this one.
And that was for D. Rogers Ranch, one of Dave Evans's holdings. D. Rogers.
Yeah, let me go look at that again.
Okay, and while you're doing that, I'm going to read the next paragraph. Only a few generations ago, the Point Reyes Peninsula was a thriving agricultural hub, owned and loved by families. Sorry, I can't read it except this way. Loved by families who produce food for their community and beyond.
It
Pride.
wasn't thriving.
It wasn't driving. Prized, how dare you interrupt? And please continue. Prized cow's milk butter along with hog's fat on buttermilk. My stomach's growling already. Were shipped in schooners from our bays to a growing San Francisco.
Dude, he's talking about pre-20s.
I'm sorry? Pre-1920s.
He's talking about like the 1910s. Like
Well, he
by the
was around.
30s, the dairy industry was already going down.
That was his dad. Grossi was doing it then?
I don't know, but if you go and read the administrative history of Point Reyes, all this wonderful, Point Reyes is bringing the butter down to San Francisco and all that. That's way, way, way back. That was back when some of his ancestors were still enslaving the Native Americans that refused to die when their land was taken over.
Those belligerent natives, they just refused to die when they're attacked. And then it gets better. Here we go, folks. Yet our family members who sold their land to the federal government over 6 decades ago felt similar similar economic pressures to those who recently, get this, surrendered their leases to the Nature Conservancy. Their only option was to give up their way of life or be pushed out entirely. Well, in fact, Dave isn't pushed out entirely, and he didn't sell, and he's staying. So what is he talking about? He wasn't pushed out entirely, and yet he's saying that was not an option. You had to give up your way of life or be pushed out entirely.
Jack,
He's
I've got
keeping his way of
to
life.
bring up that the Point Reyes Light will vet someone like me when I actually am bringing facts, and yet these guys can say anything they want to.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's contradicting himself inside the same letter, and the journal and the editors aren't picking up on it.
Inside the same paragraph.
Inside the same paragraph.
And it's true, folks. Just what Skylar said, we've all written letters over the years here, in the local papers, not just this one. And, you say that they're the greatest source of air pollution in the park. And they say, well, where are you getting that? I'm like, because there's 5,000 cows in the park? Or excuse me. Yeah, 5,000 cows emitting, 40 gallons of methane per cow. It's 200,000 gallons of methane per cow. And there are only this many visitor vehicles. I mean, it's just common sense. But no, you need to prove that and write it down.
Ladies and gentlemen, go stand next to the ranches and breathe deeply for as long as you can. See how long you can stand it. We're not talking about the pleasant, faint aroma of manure in the air. We're talking about choking on the fucking pollution these people are creating.
Continuing, the generation that founded the seashore Even right there, oh my God, it's a sentence fragment. The generation, he means the ranchers, the generation that founded the seashore. How did they found the seashore? They took the land from the Indians, set up their cattle ranches after killing all the wildlife and destroying all the vegetation. And then environmentalists created a national
I'm going to stop you.
seashore
I'm going to stop you. It's
opposing
not
the
even that
ranchers.
good.
I'm
It's not
sorry?
even that good.
Go ahead.
They were tenant ranchers who eventually worked their way up to running the ranches. Like they didn't found it at all. These people that are there didn't found the early days. Like, you know, you go back to who, like you look back at who was ranching there before the United States government came in and said, hey, this would be a good place for a national park. The ranchers that were there at the time that the national government came in had only in relatively recent history become the actual proprietors of those ranches. They used to be tenant ranchers on other people's ranches. It's not like they are the ones who showed up and started ranching it.
I thought that they were there the whole time. I mean, for a long time, the families were there. Grossi was there, and he was there for, you know, whatever, 50 years. And his son comes in and takes over, and they were there for a long time.
Some of them were there longer than others, especially if you tie any sort of intermarriage situation. But like Lunny's very recent history, Lunny's family doesn't have shit to do with the history there.
Okay. And for me, I'm definitely a big picture person and not the detail. You're a good researcher and stuff, John. And John Spear, by the way, just clarified. He said the acreage there, 480, was on the AT&T ranch. So one of Evans's ownings. Yeah, just to get the facts right there. Anyway, the generation that founded the seashore could take solace knowing that their lifestyle would remain through leaseback arrangements. They knew that agriculture and the satisfaction one feels in producing food for others would continue in perpetuity. And now that's the biggest lie. It was never a deal to continue in perpetuity. And the proof of that, folks, it's not nowhere in the lease can you find it says ranching will continue in perpetuity. They were buying them out and saying, we're going to give you a 25-year sweetheart deal. We're going to let you stay, pay you money at the end of the 25 years so you can transition out more gradually. You can then leave. And this is the big rancher myth. We were supposed to stay there forever. No documentation, nothing in the enabling legislation that created the park shows any of that claim.
Correct. No, they fought the seashore. I mean, I keep putting out my videos. No, they fought the seashore. The reason that it took so long and it got so expensive was because of the big puff that the ranchers were putting up.
And in fact, that parallels what we just saw, where they were fighting a lawsuit about their pollution, which they might eventually lose, but there was concern that the Trump administration would try to scuttle the whole thing. So let's pay them again a lot of money to get them out.
Do you think when he says, is there any chance when he says forced out, he's referring to eventually being evicted for their lease violations? Because no. Laura Cunningham is confident that our side would have won those lawsuits. But the dark side of that is that even if if our side won those lawsuits, nothing's going to change out there. You know, the Park Service goes and says, well, we'll go draft another plan based on this information and come back with the same bullshit we always come back with.
Well, based on past history, that's what would happen. Yeah, indeed. Right. But I did check with attorney Jim Cota, who's, you know, very knowledgeable about this. What was the point I was going to make? Sorry. That, yeah, even if basically this big article, this puff piece is to say, scuttle the deal, just give it all back to us. Trump, come in and help us and dismantle this whole thing. Even if they could, which is no small feat because it's legally binding, then the lawsuit kicks back in. You know, that's part of the arrangement, which is if this deal doesn't go through, if any of the ranchers bail, then the whole contract falls apart. And then the lawsuit is still back in effect. The lawsuit, which was and with proof of pollution and breaking all the lease agreements for years.
It's all or nothing. Nobody, it can't be like, oh, I'm okay. And this is why we have the other letter written.
But I'm saying, just let me finish the thought. The thought would be then the lawsuit goes back into effect, and they're very likely, as you're saying, Laura agrees, and everybody agrees, as the plaintiffs agree, they'd probably lose the lawsuit because it's just damning evidence that they're polluting the park and violating the lease. So there's no winning here. And this is just like a Hail Mary, please help us. And I think, in my opinion, it's sort of a psychic thing, like we're being pressured out, meaning the world has changed and no longer believes our BS about we're doing good things on the land. and that we're not major polluters, because they are. The world is seeing the truth. That's why we keep going on about these things, folks. Again, at least why I keep prattling on about it this way. Get the big picture. Ranching is a monstrously environmentally destructive force in the land. And as I was reminded on Saturday by John San Bonmatsu, it's so horrifically cruel to the animals. If you are willing to look at what's really going on, and literally you can see it in videos, you will be disgusted and want to give up the food for the most part. And that's just something people don't want to hear. So I keep saying
this
it
is
will
what's so
continue.
frustrating with Point Reyes. You could look at what they do for a living and think about how horrific it is. There's another side of it. What they do for a living and the effect that has on the other creatures there, not the commodity animals. Everything there suffers because of them and their actions. All the living creatures there suffer because of them.
Very well put.
The elk aren't dying behind that fence for no reason.
That's a really great way to put it, Skylar. All living creatures there suffer and die because of them. And that means the domesticated animals that are abused and sexually abused and killed when they're children. And then, of course, wild animals who are pushed off the land or even, shot.
The animals in the water are suffering because of them.
Because of pollution, right. Salmon in the streams are suffering from cattle manure pollution in the water. Everything a rancher touches dies.
Nice comment from John Spear here. It's very complimentary.
The Point Reyes light isn't a reliable source of information or thoughts. That's why we need to look at other media such as this YouTube channel. Well, thank you, John. Be honored to be included in a reliable source of information, which we appreciate your contributing to. Oh, John was at the book reading too. John was there. I forgot. That's right. John showed up. I didn't know he was going to be there at the John Sanbamatsu Omnivore's Deception book reading. Okay, and then it goes on here. Oh, God. Knowing their life, let's see, the generation that founded this year, blah, blah, blah. They knew that agriculture and the satisfaction one feels in producing food for others would continue in perpetuity. Lie, as we've covered. But because of pressure from groups based and funded outside our community, also a lie. It's a mixture of groups in and out of the community because it's a national seashore, federally recognized.
Antifa terrorists.
Antifa terrorists, right. Thank you. That's us. The public now, because I am, I guess, anti-fascist when you get down to it. The public now faces a bleak reality. Not their business, of course, which is the real bleak reality. But, he goes on, the gutting of our agricultural lands and its resulting ripple effects. It is inconceivable that this has happened in the heart of Marin County, a place known worldwide as a mecca for high-quality local food, especially dairy and meat, and the subsequent torture we do on these animals to produce it. Oh, wait, I added the last part. Sorry. Couldn't resist.
And, of course, Dave is talking about only the mostly Caucasian population that can afford indulgent diet that causes obesity. Otherwise, no one else there locally is enjoying those products. And it's barely even being sold in the local stores, as I have shown. And by the way, these ranchers that were supposedly partners with the seashore said this shit back when the government was proposing the park. Oh, the Marin will collapse. The economy will collapse. The dairy industry will collapse. Nope. The economy has benefited. And you guys didn't even leave entirely, but the creation of the seashore alone has benefited the other local businesses there far more than the ranchers ever have.
Exactly. Meaning tourism. People come to visit a national park.
Not even a comparable dollar amount, Jack. Right. Not even a comparable dollar amount. Total eclipse.
If you or John, our off-camera researcher here, if you happen to know the numbers, I forget, I had it somewhere, but how many millions tourism brings in versus the supposed benefit to the economy that is exaggerated by the meat and dairy producers there. Beef and dairy producers, excuse me.
I included that in the Shame of Point Reyes. You'd think I could remember the number.
Well, how many years ago did you make that film, my friend? How many years?
Feels like an eternity.
Yeah, I mean, 5 or 6 years ago? 7 years ago, because I saw it 6 years ago. That's how I
Holy shit.
Yeah, that means, like, in theory, you're like 42 now, if I did my math right. At the Dance Palace Town Hall last January, where I was, residents expressed outrage at the surprise plan, bullshit, to remove ranching and empty the seashore of people. National Park Service staff, the Nature Conservancy, representatives of anti-ranching, as I say, anti-ranching organizations like mine and yours, Skylar, and local officials all seemed shocked by the public blowback of their closed-door deal-making. Well, no, not really. We were actually thrilled that they actually did the right thing for a change. The value of these ranches, from jobs and housing to local schools and food production, that's what we're just saying right now. You have a comment, or are you just shaking your head?
Well, I feel like I already said it.
Yeah, it's just bullshit. It's bullshit. The value of these ranches had clearly been underestimated by those pushing the buyout. No, it hadn't, in fact. You've been exaggerating the value of your ranches from the get-go. As one of two ranching families remaining in the seashore, now that's true. First true thing you said. Dave Evans is staying, and the famous Bill Nyman of Nyman Ranch is staying in the southern end of the park. The two ranches remaining, for us, it felt as though a final blow was being dealt to our efforts to honor that once thriving food system. What does that mean, Tyler?
They're honoring the food system by us holding them up?
By us paying them to torture animals while polluting the public land.
Well, thank you so much for accepting subsidies and criminally low lease rates to suck Earth dry.
And be major polluters. Oh, God. So, of course, he has, in fact, now he refers to a joint
Jack,
lawsuit.
I have a question before, because
please,
John, I should know this. I should know this before bringing it up, but I don't. It's a question that we should all ask and find out. When he says two ranching families remaining, now does this equate to two ranches remaining or two ranch families? Because as I just showed you, that could technically, just for Evans alone, mean 5 ranches.
Great question. My understanding was he owns the D. Rogers Ranch, and maybe it was AT&T, but another one nearby were separated, but nearby, and they were going to shift cows around with him, with the Park Service, and make it one piece of land. So it wasn't the patchwork owned by one guy. But I don't know the answer to that. I don't think anyone really knows the answer to what's going on, because once again, it's behind closed doors.
What you just right. What you just described sounds like multiple ranches becoming one ranch, which means you have an even bigger ranch now.
Well, it's very confusing, because add to that the confusion that, to be fair, nobody on either side of this knows. How is the Nature Conservancy going to move its own 1,000 cows or 600 cows? Seasonally, it's going to vary, and move them around with electronic shock collars and quote unquote virtual electronic fences to eat down the European grasses that are there as a result of bringing cows.
I can't wait to find out that Dave Evans is getting money from the Nature Conservancy to use his cattle, and he's still bitching.
You're saying, Skylar, to clarify, that we don't know where the cows the Nature Conservancy is going to bring in are coming from.
We still don't know. I asked Laura also. She was, her organization was one of those evil ones behind those closed doors, and even they don't know. But I got to tell you, with the number of lies that Evans and these other guys say so comfortably, and they complain about just about everything, I wouldn't be surprised if they're going to get paid to use their own cattle to graze other parts of the seashore that other ranchers got paid millions of dollars to leave, and still have the nerve to complain about. I'm not saying that's what's happening. I just would not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised either, but that's where, to my fellow activists who are listening to the show, and there are many here, this is where we're going to come in again. Whatever nonsense, or excuse me, offenses and illegalities come to the fore here, we will then draw attention to them and bring more public outrage, which is how a large group of people, hundreds of activists in effect, affected finally a change in federal policy and got at least 12 of the 14 businesses out of there for the moment. We'll see.
Imagine the marketing behind it, Jack. Imagine the marketing behind it, if you will, about just the local aspect of it. Instead of importing cattle from blah, 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 we have them right here in the seashore. Yeah.
Vegan activists.
And let's also just ignore all the 18-wheelers full of hay and feed that you guys bring in for your stupid businesses, and the 18-wheelers full of soon-to-be corpses leaving the seashore as you continue to consume the seashore for your private profits. And you sit here pretending like you're doing it because we have satisfaction of feeding people. Bullshit.
Do I detect more sarcasm there? That's how perceptive I am.
No, you just detect anger and disgust.
Okay, I thought you got something caught in your throat there. And also more 18-wheelers, mind you, to bring in water to feed those animals, and more 18-wheelers to bring in hay to feed those animals, and more 18-wheelers to bring out the milk that comes out of the poor raped cow mothers. And that's why the roads get destroyed. And then the public pays to repave the roads, public roads into a national park, caused by damage by the ranching industry, paid for by the.
How about, Jack? Let's keep this list going. How about the combines to mow the silage fields? How about the trucks that catch the silage being shot into them? How about the manure trucks that exist to collect the insane amount of manure that is in the seashore and then spread it in other areas? All of these things are on public roads that we, the taxpayers, have to pay the repair bills for.
So amid, as my mother used to say from Brooklyn, with all this shit, there's got to be a pony. One of the ponies is manure spreading is now disallowed. Of all those offenses we just listed, one of them has been crossed off the list. There will be no more manure spreading on the land. There's that. And folks, again, if you're listening and you're new to all this, when you drive into Point Reyes seashore and you drive past ranches, note that the roads in front of those ranches are really chopped up. The pavement is potholed and destroyed and there's gravel on it. That's what those ranchers do with all these trucks coming and going. The roads are really hammered all over, but especially right by the ranches where there's the most ranching activity, which again, even on a vehicular level, is destructive.
Let's do a common sense argument, because I'm sure that there are naysayers out there saying, "Oh, that's not true. You can't prove that." Tell me what the other big trucks are. Tell me why there'd be other reasons for other giant vehicles being out there.
Winnebagos are tiny by comparison to an 18-wheeler full of water or milk, right?
This is true.
And those are recreational vehicles that come in like, oh, that's a big vehicle, not compared to a truck laden with water.
I actually have not seen a Winnebago out there, by the way. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but it's not like, it's usually a sedan. It's something like a sedan going through there.
Yeah.
How about the Park Service? Occasionally, the Park Service is going to have to do some repairs.
To what?
Funny enough, they're repairing ranch lands.
Right. I mean, a garbage truck. They do have garbage.
What other structures are out there for them to work on?
Exactly. And Corinne says,
add in the propane delivery. Thank you, NC. The list keeps going.
Very good. Propane, right? Of course. Wow.
Oh, I got another one. I've got another one.
This is great. Thanks, guys. Our audience is the best. Corinne says the pollution, of course, always also ends up in the ocean. So to be fair, to give pollution its due, which is millions of pounds of cow manure, it first have to kill what's on the land by smothering vegetation, not regenerating it, as regenerative ranchers want us to believe too much manure does, or lots of manure does. And then, because it's not plowed into a field like a garden, and then it gets washed by rains into the streams, as Skywar mentioned earlier, killing and poisoning fish. And only then does it get out to the beach, where it can poison elephant seals and sea lions who are on the beaches or in the nearby water. And then it goes out to poison the continental shelf off the Pacific Ocean. Thank you, ranchers, for your unending service.
I did include very briefly going to Drake's Estero and seeing the sign that says, recreation is shut down right now for the sake of the harbor seals and things like that. And I'm looking at the water and I'm looking at the ground and I'm like, is this where harbor seals want to pup, where it's just completely covered in cattle manure and shit?
Yeah.
And the algae's so bad that it's growing in a bay, not just in a little puddle, covering the bay.
A few years ago, there was one of the outlets. I think it was from Drake's Beach, where there was an outlet from one of the cow farms. I forget which ranch it was, that fed out to where elephant seals had hauled up on the beach. In fact, I mean, it was near one of the areas they inhabit. So anyway,
Jocelyn Knight got some good shots of that.
Yeah. Oh, Miss Jocelyn, that's right.
No, that was Mendoza. Mendoza got in trouble for the raw sewage that they were just human sewage just being sent out onto the land.
What was the financial penalty he had to pay, Skyward? Remind me how much?
I'm guessing nothing, but the Park Service, when I pushed for it, the Park Service says that they don't have to legally disclose that. And I'm like, how come I haven't ever seen it even in the FOIA documents? Oh, we don't, that's not, again, it doesn't show up in the FOIA documents because I guess that's not for public eyes, which I don't understand that.
Oh, and our busy bee here, John Spear, says they're going to need a bunch of dump trucks if they're ever going to demolish and remove the massive loafing barns.
Oh, God, yeah.
Those are like aircraft hangar structures where the cows can get out of the sun, which were added after the formation of Point Reyes. In other words, there was the park, okay, you got your existing infrastructure, and then they were allowed to build these modern loafing barns while calling them historic ranches, like calling a I don't know, a Ford fumigator or whatever the biggest SUV is calling it. Oh, that's a historic Ford Model T or something.
So John had a documentary level question of the dismantling of barns such as McClure's, just the amount of concrete that had to have been brought out there and laid, and then the amount of work that's going to have to go into dismantling that concrete floor and hauling it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Huge, 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 huge.
I had one more vehicle that we didn't talk about,
Uh-huh.
which is pretty ecologically important. The vehicle is bringing in the tons of bags of grass seed because they actually reseed the seashore with seeds that aren't supposed to be in the seashore.
In addition to the bales of hay they'll bring in, because that seed doesn't produce enough because the cows beat it all down to dirt, eat what's there. They make silage out of it, but then they bring in both hay and bags of seed. Correct.
I got to tell you, Jack, this makes me wonder just how destructive the cattle are, because everywhere else in California, these annual grasses are happy to come back without being seeded. They do the seeding themselves. It's interesting that in Point Reyes National Seashore, these invasive grasses actually need help.
Right. In other words, how nasty a force on the land does the cow business have to be to kill what is it, yellow star thistle, right? Which is a really, I call it a hardy plant, and it's a pioneer species. I don't demonize the way you and Laura were doing, but in any case, it's certainly not what was there and what ideally could be there.
You know
Uh,
what you can call them that would make you feel better is exotic.
yeah, yeah, exotic plant, imported and European, and we want the what were there originally more coyote brush and plants that the more of the elk are going to eat and such. Who, by the way, should be doing the grazing, as we all know, not the cows. But anyway, question here, just point of order, Your Honor. It's 10:05. I can go a little bit longer today. That's fine. Next Tuesday, I'm going to be in New York, so I won't feel as comfortable going on and on. Do we want to? I can cut kind of to the chase in this article, or we can
Cut to
keep
the
going.
chase. I got to move on too.
Okay, so we'll finish up this article now. We believe so. This is his takeaway for all this lamenting and how terrible they've had it, how great they've been, and how screwed they are. He concludes, final two paragraphs. We believe beneficial ranching, which is itself an oxymoron, thank you, can return these pastoral lands. Well, actually, it's coastal prairie you've turned into beaten down pastures in a bigger way than ever before. In a bigger way than ever before,
That's scary.
backed by. I'm going to watch your face as I read this. Backed by rigorous scientific monitoring, like they've done historically. We rigorously monitor, which means we do no monitoring since 2013. And then if we were to monitor and find pollution, we would, of course, ignore it. That's the rigorous scientific monitoring. We envision, boy, he envisions a lot, opportunities for visitors to come to the ranches like never before, never been permitted on the land, and eat food produced here on the point. We see the
Sounds like
restoration.
a restaurant and a boutique shop and an Airbnb to me.
You
Sounds like
know,
he's looking out for himself.
we should, the park isn't making enough money. They have a tough budget. We should just let the ranchers run it as a business and have people drive in and park on the lands and come and hang out at restaurants. And we could actually have pony rides, slaughter your own lamb if you want, feed the kids. And we see the last sentence of that penultimate paragraph. We see the restoration of dilapidated buildings and a community of locals living and working here.
You mean the buildings that they refuse to do any work on?
Correct, because they're not giving us long-term leases, so we can't invest in them, even though some of us did. Final paragraph. As let's gild the lily while we're at it, or kick the dead animal. We also believe the National Park Service should step aside as the direct manager of this land, which is a national park. I guess they want to undo the national park, replaced by a new entity, a nonprofit trust. Nonprofit trust, my eye, as has been successfully implemented at the Presidio in San Francisco, could be created to ensure the correct stewardship for Point Reyes in our hands. Now is the time to right the course for our Point Reyes National Seashore. Now it's our national seashore, meaning give it to the locals to run our Point Reyes federally recognized national park seashore.
So the TNC is an evil nonprofit. So let
Skylar,
me guess. The ranchers will be board members of the equivalent of the Presidio Trust,
sure.
and be just bringing it in hand over fist.
Well,
with
that's
rental. I mean, the Presidio Trust exists due to rental fees
it's
here.
only fair. They are stakeholders, and in this case, literal STEAK holders. Yeah, it's like flooding the zone with pro rancher false, that's redundant, propaganda. It's just there's so much there in one sentence or one paragraph you don't know where to begin, so we have to devote a show to this one column, folks, whatever this is, 600, 700 words, and written by, to give credit where credit is due, Dave Evans and Claire Hermanjard run Point Reyes Pastures Incorporated at the D. Rogers Ranch, where they live with their children. They are the founders of Marin Sun Farms, the slaughterhouse that kills animals, and Mindful Meats. I don't know what mindful meats means, but there it is, folks. To give
I've
credit.
seen the packaging. It shows uh, a mom and a dad walking hand in hand with their kids through a field of flowers. It doesn't even represent what they do.
I have a reasonable suggestion. Why not just, if you're very proud of your business, open it up to the public? Like, give tours of the slaughterhouse while it's in production. You give us little masks and all that, a little hazmat suit so we don't bring in contaminants. And let's see how you mindfully kill hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of animals while they're 2 years old or 3 years old, or in the case of a dairy cow, 5 or 6 years old, instead of letting it come to a 20-year life. Let's see the slaughterhouse operation. If you're so proud of this business, why is it hidden behind concrete walls?
I think you're underestimating how vile the human race is and how easily shaped by marketing they are. I think people will actually come out there and, like, after they choke away their tears and look away the first time or two, they'll reach the point that they're like, "Oh, this is wonderful."
Well,
Hand your kid the knife Sundays they should have there, where your 5-year-old learns how to slit the throat of a lamb the way our species clearly was always meant. I was watching, by the way, ravens picking a seagull apart on the beach this morning, and I was thinking humans can't even do that. Like, we can't even be as close to a meat eater as a raven is with what God gave us. The raven didn't have to go invent shit to turn itself into something that it isn't, you know? We couldn't even pick apart a fucking seagull without some help of some sort.
we do a TV show called Naked and Afraid, right? Where it's an incredible deal that a human being, given nothing but the natural environment, can survive, can even survive. That's like, wow, how will they live for a month? And I mean, I'm spoiled. I'm living indoors here on a computer, so I get it. But it just, for me, it's John touched on this too in his book, The Omnivore's Deception, about how incredible animals are and how they are second class citizens, to put it gently. I mean, second class citizens who are slaughtered. We think so little of them. They're commodified objects. They're no longer intelligent, sentient, individual beings, except if you're lucky enough to be a cat, dog, or sometimes a horse, who gets a stable and someone who's brushing them every day. All the other animals are just like things out there, or they're idealized as some wild coyote until it comes near your house, and then it's a threat to your, you know, whatever, your children or something like that. We just don't see animals for the wonders that they are. So I'm going to try to end on a positive note, which is to get, once again, to say, go outside, folks, this weekend, this holiday, and spend time in nature. It will set you free, and leave your phones on off or on airplane mode if you're going to use them as a camera.
Uh, I'm going to, maybe it would be a good idea for us to do this at the end of every show. I'm going to allow a minute or two for the final comment questions to come through because I think there is a delay.
Okay.
Um, I noticed with that crybaby speech that just went on forever and ever and ever that part of what he was saying is, this is what I know how to do. And again, like the human race crying that they don't know how to make it in the world, and therefore we all owe it to them to help them continue to do the only thing that they've ever done. Who else gets to complain like that in the entire world, that when your business isn't working out, you don't have to adapt?
Slave owners of the South. I'm serious. Plantation owners. You're ending our way of life. That was the same lament, right?
Yep.
You're taking away our slaves. We treat them well. We treat them like members of the family, other than for the raping, the beating, the killing. And
Corinne says you're right, Skylar. I don't know what you're talking about, but I'm sure you're right that I was right.
right, whatever it is, I'm for it. Oh,
Okay. Well, that was.
that was something. So I
I'm
think
going
we're
to do exactly
finally
what you
done
said.
with.
I'm going to go outside and get back into nature, clear my
Yeah,
head.
yeah, ditto. And
Don't go
we're
to Point
finally.
Reyes to do that, by the way. You'll choke on the fumes of the ranchers.
Well, Point Reyes is a beautiful place, and actually, right now it's more beautiful than ever. It's green. We've had rain and sun here, and there are more elk than ever before, and fewer cows than ever before, and that number of cows will continue to diminish at least until April, and then we'll pick up our battle again, and we will continually be talking about it because Point Reyes or no, folks, meat and dairy, beef and dairy, and all animals. When you get into it, read The Omnivore's Deception. If you don't have the courage to watch the documentary film Dominion. And it's the thing you can do every day that makes the most difference for the planet, for your children, for the animals of this world. If you're an animal lover, you can't eat them, folks. It's just a complete, contradiction. Skylar and I know this. We were raised eating this stuff too, but that's the biggest contribution you can make to the planet. So I'm going to start ending shows with it now to do the vegan message, whatever you want to call it. You can't hide your lion lies.
Corinne, by the way, thank you for donating to my fund to go document Point Reyes again. I'm going to need a couple more people to do what Corinne did, but I do intend to get up there, especially with these rains starting. We got to document. An honest doubter says, "Go plant based." Thank
Actually,
you.
folks, yeah, please do throw Skylar $100 so the guy can get a few grand and go out and spend some time in the park documenting. He would be a really valuable asset right now that I know of. Nobody else is actually doing documentary work of this transition now with fewer cows, more elk. What's going to happen out there? So to pay this guy a few pennies on the dollar, which is to say a few thousand on the hundreds of $1,000s worth of value he provides by
Wow, I
making.
never would have hoped for that much money, but yeah, you're right. It goes fast.
If someone gave you 20 grand, you say, terrific. Now you can spend 6 months and, on a poverty budget because you're so used to working for little. So anyway, throw them $100 if you can, folks. Give it to Skyward to do some more work. It's certainly going to be used efficiently and effectively, more so than giving it to the Nature Conservancy. No offense.
Yeah. Yeah. I will put links to that in the description, and I'm going to end the show by putting the Eagles back on the screen since I have to remove it from the show anyway. Might as well play it. Might as well play it one more time. Thanks for being here, Jack. Thanks everyone for your comments, and we hope you learned something.
Thank you, Skyward. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. I'm sorry. What do you mean, Herb Donahue?
The head bent, microphone up.
It's funny. I don't. You mean his old show? God, it's funny. It's been so long to talk about.
The only reason I know that is because I think SNL has made fun of his.
I that's not in my head as a thing, but you're right. Interesting. So with that, so that's my. I don't even remember. This is again just a year ago, but I did that pan across the audience there to show him or the panel. I don't remember filming that. I remember him. That's all I remember. Oh, and there's Albert Strauss's head, the bottom left. Pretty sure that's the back of Strauss's gray hair there because he spoke also. I didn't film everyone. I did film Dave. Lunny started, and I like, oh shit, I didn't think to. I don't know. I mean, that was quite a scene there. I'm glad at least I got that for the record.
Yes, thank you, Jack, for this footage.
Yeah.
All right.